Welcome back. It is 6:55 on your Wednesday. Here's a look at today's top stories. Yesterday marked the 5th day of protests in Los Angeles, all sparked by immigration raids being carried out by the Trump administration. A curfew has now been set across part of downtown LA as law enforcement activity in that area increases. And the third full day of jury deliberations in the Davis stabbings trial is today. Carlos Dominguez, accused of stabbing 2 people to death and attacking a third. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. And we've been following this for a while. Sacramento city leaders have now approved a budget plan that'll avoid layoffs across city departments. The $1.67 billion plan was approved in a 7-2 vote, with opponents saying it doesn't do enough to balance the deficit. The plan will take effect on July 1st. And before we go, we want you to check this out. 2 Spanish taverns are competing for the title of world's oldest restaurant. Casa Pedro in Madrid wants to confirm its claim that it was established in 1702. That's more than 20 years before a nearby competitor. So right now, Sobrino de Botín currently holds the title of world's oldest restaurant. Casa Pedro's owners say they're close to confirming the tavern's actual year of opening, and new technology helped look through that data. So kind of interesting, I would say.
I went out for Taco Tuesday last night to a local restaurant. I'm not going to name it, but I know I had the world's oldest chips last night. Now I know where they're squeezing in the value.
If it's a nice place, it's not old, it's vintage.
How was the dip, though? Like the salsa?
The salsa? Not enough, to be honest with you. But then again, I drink it by the gallons.
Okay, yeah, good to know. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. And be sure to join us following this show over on ABC10+. We'll continue to bring you the latest news along with more weather and traffic updates. That'll be from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And we are going to leave you with a live look at the Folsom Lake Marina. Looks like a beautiful Wednesday morning. We hope you have a great day.
Did they give you like the sampler that had like a teaspoon of salsa in it?
Yeah. Us on ABC 10 Plus, I'm Jordan Tolbert, and we are going to get right to your weather forecast. This morning, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day out there today, Rob.
So there's some moments in time where I know exactly what the weather's going to be. I tell everybody about it. I talk about it all morning long, sometimes for hours. And then I'm always surprised when it actually happens. And that was last night. I was out picking up my daughter from her softball practice, and it felt kind of cold. And I remember thinking, for her, hey, maybe I should throw in a sweatshirt for her so when she's done, she's not cold. But I wasn't even thinking about me, and I'm the one sitting there. So these are the kinds of things to think about. Whatever you're doing this evening, as you're wrapping things up around sunset, just remember that it gets cold, not cold, but it gets cooler quickly with the wind in the background. So if you're gonna be stationary sitting around somewhere, hey, bring a jacket with you just in case, or a sweatshirt because you may want it. Starting off up high with the cams, everything's looking good, traffic's flowing good, and it's gonna be a nice day for the Sierra because the afternoon showers and thunderstorms, we saw a couple of those yesterday. I'll show you where in a second. They've quieted down a bunch, and we're expecting more of that today and for the next several days this upcoming weekend. More mild back to the 80s. Now, I would say if it's 88 degrees and you're doing something really physical outside for a couple hours, you're gonna feel hot. But if you're just bouncing around from errands and shade and indoors and just short walks across a parking lot, I think you're gonna be just fine going through the weekend. We've got 54 degrees in Sacramento, 57 in Stockton, 46 for Truckee, and we've got a nice early breeze coming in off the ocean. Folks, when you see these wind barbs extending far in there and the numbers staying around 5 to 10 miles per hour, that tells you we've got that early onshore push, which is keeping our temperatures down early this morning and should keep them down into the afternoon. What I like about today is that, pick a spot. It's all pretty much similar, isn't it, right? 84 Vacaville, then far across the valley and then up in the foothills a little bit, Sonora 89. That's basically the same kind of day. You're only really splitting it up when you get to the 70s for the higher elevations, and then close to the Bay Area, you're gonna see some cooler temperatures. Tonight, this is what I'm talking about. The sun is up, but it's lower in the sky. It's in the 80s, but the wind's starting to really kick in. And then right after sunset, where it's still light, by the way, it just stays light forever now. There's still some element of light out there, and it's in the 60s. So you still might be running around doing things and breezy. And then as everyone's wrapping things up, going to bed, yeah, it's 60 degrees by this 11 o'clock at night. So we've got a lot of things to look forward to. The breezy conditions will absolutely be helping us out for the most part. And then moving forward here, we're going to have temperatures moving into the low 90s by next week and then upper 90s by Tuesday, getting close to 100 for Wednesday, Thursday next week. So all in all, we like the front part of the forecast. The second half, though, we are going to get hot again. It's 7:03 in the morning. We are live here on the streaming channel, and so we're always updating traffic because we start to see a lot more cars hit the road. Everything's more or less what you expect. Tracy's slow, a lot of long commuters from Mountain House or Stockton or you name it, and we're expecting that traffic along with the warehousing traffic, all the trucks, what I'm talking about. And then we've got this area. We're not concerned about that triangle there. That's some construction work there on Harbor exit, but this is the big one, folks. This is something literally I'm going to tell you about it. You're going to forget about it by Friday. You're going to forget about it over the weekend. Put it in your calendar on your phone because this is all eastbound lanes starting Friday night to Tuesday morning, a 79-hour closure. So this does include Monday. It's all the lanes eastbound starting at I-80 where it splits and goes up toward IKEA, then over the river there, and then back toward Natomas. So you're going to have to go all the way around if you need any exit in West Sacramento because the westbound lanes are open. Getting from Sacramento to Davis, that's open. Getting from Davis to Sacramento, that's going to be blocked, but there still is an alternate. If you want to avoid all of this mess, because it is going to be a mess, absolutely, you could take that route, or you could just really cut it out early and go through Davis all the way up to Woodland and take the long scenic way around. Jordan?
Yeah, going to be a big traffic impact this weekend. All right, thank you, Rob. Well, Los Angeles issuing a curfew in parts of the city as protests against ICE continue. This comes after President Trump deployed more than 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines. There are now more U.S. troops in L.A. than Iraq and Syria. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says their mission will go on for the next 60 days, costing American taxpayers $134 million. ABC's Perry Russum joins us now with the latest.
Good morning. Again, these protests are happening in a condensed part of Los Angeles. We are seeing demonstrations pop up in other parts of the country. Now Texas will be deploying their own National Guard. This morning, a new curfew in parts of downtown Los Angeles as the protests against ICE stretch into another day. police on horseback called in, breaking up crowds. California Governor Gavin Newsom says more than 220 people have been arrested so far, with investigators reviewing video to build more cases.
This situation was winding down and was concentrated in just a few square blocks downtown. But that's not what Donald Trump wanted. He again chose escalation. He chose more force. Other states are next.
President Trump deploying more than 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines to Los Angeles, where there are now more active troops than in Iraq and Syria. Their role in dispersing crowds has been minimal. Trump warning the use of the military could be seen in other cities.
This is the first, perhaps, of many, or perhaps, if we didn't attack this one very strongly, you'd have them all over the country.
Protests against ICE spreading to other cities from coast to coast. Overnight, Texas Governor Greg Abbott says he will deploy National Guard troops ahead of protests this week. In his words, to ensure peace and order. For now, the National Guard troops and Marines will stay in Los Angeles. California had asked for a temporary restraining order. The judge declined until a full hearing tomorrow. Perry Russum, ABC News, Washington.
And we do have continuing coverage of the protests and the fallout, including an exclusive interview with Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis. You can watch our extended coverage streaming right now on the ABC10 Plus TV app, which is free to download to your TV. And immigration attorneys in Sacramento sounding the alarm right now, saying ICE is allegedly detaining people who are following the legal process. This is the advice that they're giving to immigrant families caught in the system. Local attorneys say clients who entered the country legally and who are actively going through the courts are being taken into custody without warning. Some are detained immediately after their cases are dismissed, then deported without a hearing. They say many of these individuals have no criminal records and are being denied due process.
Show up with an attorney. If you are represented, then your attorney can oppose any motion from the government to try to dismiss your case.
And attorneys advise immigrants to plan ahead, tell someone if you're going to court, prepare for childcare, and memorize your attorney's phone number in case you are detained. And now to continuing coverage out of Sacramento, the city council voting to finalize a $1.67 billion spending plan. A $44 million deficit has put city leaders in a pretty tough spot. It's a balancing act between avoiding layoffs, funding public safety, and addressing deep community concerns. And through it all, a majority of the council did agree to the next fiscal year budget as a short-term win. ABC 10's Garshpal Sangha has the latest update.
After weeks of pushback from the community, Sacramento Mayor Kevin McCarty says the council's revised budget protects key services and jobs.
No people are losing their jobs, no layoffs, some vacancies that we swept.
Earlier proposal threatened to charge residents for parking fees and eliminate youth violence prevention program. But Tuesday night, Mayor McCarty says those cuts have been reversed. Restoration include more than $1 million for youth violence prevention, nearly $1 million to reverse a new residential parking fee, and $500,000 to continue legal help for immigrant and refugee communities. Still, some residents say the city is falling short, and the current plan doesn't go far enough, eliminating vacant police positions.
The last thing we need to do is save money for vacancies as communities suffer.
It does not provide enough resources and investment to youth, community centers, and violence prevention programs.
Others praise city leaders for finding a balance.
You cannot demand law and order while undermining the very people who provide it. Continue to support the police department because they are understaffed, underfunded, and underappreciated.
The mayor says public safety will remain intact, but McCarty admits this isn't over.
The pain's not over. We're going to be back here next year, especially so much uncertainty on the federal level in our economy with the tariffs and so forth.
That was Garshpal Sangha reporting. And looking ahead to next year, the projected budget shortfall is more than $60 million. The city says that number was around $100 million a few months ago, but this budget is set to go into effect on July 1st. And the Sacramento City Council also voting to approve a financing plan for the new Sac Republic FC Stadium in the rail yards area. The deal has generated support and criticism over the past few months. It includes a $92 million infrastructure plan using future tax revenue to reimburse developers for streets, parks, and utilities in the rail yards. The stadium itself will be privately funded by Wilton Rancheria, which owns a majority stake in Republic FC. Construction could start in a few months and be done in 2027, and we'll have more on this at 7:30. Well, millions of people are expected to travel out of the country this summer, but there are growing concerns right now over measles. Health officials want people to protect themselves and others before they catch a flight. Let's go ahead and get to ABC 10's Candace Red live right now at the Sacramento International Airport. Good morning, Candace.
Jordan, good morning to you. As you know, we've been coming to you live at the Sacramento International Airport all morning long, giving you a look right behind me at the check-in counter. Now, it was much busier earlier this morning around the 5 a.m. hour. Right now, not too busy at all, but here's the deal. Before you travel internationally, the CDC wants you to get vaccinated against measles. That's because most measles cases in the U.S. come from people not vaccinated who traveled internationally, then returned home here to the States. Let's take a quick look at the numbers from the CDC. As of June 5th, 2025, there's been more than 1,100 confirmed measles cases in the U.S. Last year, the U.S. saw just 285 measles cases. Now let's take a quick look at the numbers right here in our state. According to the California Department of Public Health, there's been 14 confirmed measles cases so far this year. 15 cases were confirmed last year. But the CDC describes measles as a highly contagious disease. It spreads through the air when an infected person coughs, sneezes, talks, or even simply breathes. Now, even if the infected person leaves the room, you can still get it up to 2 hours later. Symptoms include a high fever, cough, runny nose, pink eye, or a rash. Now, we reached out to the California Department of Public Health. We're told the chances of California experiencing a significant outbreak is low, but that's simply because most people in our state are vaccinated. Take a listen.
While we've seen some large-scale outbreaks in other states and some travel-associated cases in California, we've not really seen ongoing transmission of measles in California, and that's largely due to the high percentage of our population that have been vaccinated. And so for most Californians, they should be aware, but not too concerned, because the best way to protect your self or your family against measles is getting the MMR vaccine.
The CDC says anyone who is not protected against measles is at risk. Others are at more risk of experiencing significant health problems from the disease too, like children under 5, pregnant women, and people with weak immune systems. Again, health officials are encouraging people to get the MMR vaccine, especially those traveling internationally. Coming back out to you live. Now, to be clear, there are no confirmed measles cases in Sacramento County at this time. However, there are cases in both Placer and Yolo County. So those are some things to keep in mind. And then, of course, people are also encouraged to just speak directly to their own personal doctor when it comes to their personal health or any concerns that they might have. For now, live at the Sacramento International Airport, Candace Red, ABC 10.
All right, thank you, Candace. Well, coming up on ABC 10 Morning News, still to come, many people are turning to gas points rewards programs to ease the pain at the pump. After the break, we're going to find out if they're worth it. Mark?
Want to take the family on an adventure? This is it. How to Train Your Dragon, now live action, is epic and amazing, and you need to see it on the biggest screen possible. I'll tell you why, and more importantly, the star, Gerard Butler, joins us this hour to tell you exactly that. We'll be back.
Time now for dollars and cents. Well, it's not a done deal yet, but delegations from the U.S. and China say they have a framework for an agreement to get a trade truce back on track. It comes at the end of 2 days of negotiations in London, and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says they still need to get final approval from the president. And General Motors is set to spend around $4 billion at 3 facilities in the U.S. to ramp up production of gas-powered vehicles. One of those plants has been slated to start building electric trucks next year. The move raising questions about GM's plan to end production of gas-powered cars and trucks by 2035. And a whole lot of people want to game on the go. Nintendo says it's sold more than 3.5 million of its Switch 2 handheld consoles in the 4 days since its launch. That's the best ever for any Nintendo device. And Starbucks speeding up the switch in its stores to a new staffing service model. Company head Brian Nichol tells Reuters it'll cut wait times and grow sales. It's now expected to be in place in every North American Starbucks by the end of summer. The end goal here, to get customers their orders in 4 minutes or less. Well, it is no secret that in California, we often see higher gas prices than anywhere else. And according to AAA, drivers in the Golden State are paying around $1.50 per gallon above the national average. But could gas reward programs actually make an impact and bring down how much you're paying in a meaningful way? Well, brand loyalty programs tend to be most popular and easiest to use. Shell Fuel Rewards provides about 3 to 10 cents off per gallon, while ExxonMobil Rewards offers about 3 cents per gallon plus points for additional purchases. And third-party apps like GasBuddy and Upside, they offer even higher savings, but consumer advocates warn to read the fine print before using them because they could require a minimum deposit to start saving. Financial experts also recommend combining rewards programs with cashback credit cards for maximum benefit. And new numbers from President Trump's budget plan raising alarms in the Bay Area. Environmental advocates say the San Francisco Bay is being unfairly targeted. The plan cuts EPA funding, with one of the biggest cuts hitting restoration projects in the Bay. And more than $41 million in funding for clean water and climate resilience is on the chopping block right now. Similar projects in other regions like the Great Lakes and the Gulf Coast are left intact, but scientists say it could jeopardize years of work to tackle toxins and rising sea levels.
Well, bays and estuaries like what we have in San Francisco, these are national assets. They belong to the people of the United States, and it doesn't make sense to punish San Francisco, really punishing all of the residents of this country when you attack the environment.
Environmental groups and local officials call the cuts political and are pushing the state and Senate to step in to protect critical infrastructure. Well, new this morning, tech billionaire and Tesla CEO Elon Musk posting on X overnight regarding his ongoing feud with President Trump. He said, quote, "I regret some of my posts about President Trump last week. They went too far," end quote. There's been no initial response from President Trump so far. Many leaders continue to call for peace between the two. And streaming right now on the ABC10 TV streaming app, this is a pivotal period for California Democrats. ABC10's To the Point team recently traveled to the Democratic State Party convention, where all eyes are on the 2026 elections, including the race for California's governor. The team interviewed the top 7 Democratic contenders to replace Governor Newsom. You can find those interviews and more on the ABC10 TV streaming app. Just search for California Dems on the home screen. Well, coming up, we'll have a look at the top stories we're following to help get you out the door, and we'll check in with Rob for your weather and traffic. And again, thank you for watching ABC10 streaming. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This is an ABC 10 Morning News Update. I'm Jordan Tolbert. Well, now to a story we've been covering throughout the week. Yesterday marked the 5th day of protests in Los Angeles, all sparked by immigration raids carried out by the Trump administration. A curfew has been set across part of downtown Los Angeles as law enforcement activity in the area increases. And the third full day of jury deliberations in the Davis stabbings trial is today. Carlos Dominguez is accused of stabbing 2 people to death and attacking a third. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. And the measles case has been spotted in Sacramento. It's the 13th confirmed case this year in the state of California. Health officials say the chances of a significant outbreak in the state are low since most people are vaccinated.
All right, here's a quick weather and traffic update. We've got just great early morning temperatures in the 50s. We've got 54 Sacramento, 52 Fairfield, and even some cooler temperatures for the places that are just a little bit warmer than the valley floor in the 60s for the foothills. We're heading toward highs that are just really nice and enjoyable. A smidge warm in the afternoon, but we can absolutely handle 85 in Elk Grove. Are you kidding me? And then early this evening, the wind comes back, cools everybody down. We're going to be going down to the upper 60s just an hour after sunset, and by 11 o'clock tonight, look at this, down to 60 on the button with a little bit of wind. So we cool down rapidly tonight. Just one of those really classic Delta breeze evenings, but it's so robust and strong, it's going to cool everybody down back to the 50s tomorrow. We're looking at a big warm up once we get into next week with highs close to 100 degrees just before the first day of summer. Okay, in and around Sacramento, for the most part, we're fine here. However, we have a vehicle versus an RT bus on 80. There's a backup there, and 99 with a big backup in Sacramento.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on ABC 10 Plus. I'm Jordan Tolbert. Now to continuing coverage on the downtown rail yards. Last night, Sacramento City Council approving a plan that clears the way for the new Republic FC Stadium in the rail yards area. It's a plan that's been years in the making. ABC 10's Luke Clary has more on the unanimous vote in the project.
The vote is in, and Sacramento's long-delayed stadium project is moving forward. City Council approved the $92 million infrastructure deal using future tax revenue to reimburse developers for streets, parks, and utilities in the rail yards, not the stadium itself. That will be privately funded by Wilton Rancheria, which owns a majority stake in Republic FC. Councilmember Phil Pluckybaum represents the downtown district.
This is exactly the kind of investment the city is looking for. You know, we've been talking about the rail yards for decades, and here we are at a decision point for what the future of that property is going to look like for decades to come.
It's part of a massive plan to revitalize the rail yards with a public market, live music venue, and a new Kaiser hospital, and up to 10,000 new housing units. Opponents of the financing plan, including labor union Unite Here Local 49, say that's not enough affordable housing.
We have a housing crisis in Sacramento. I represent folks who work here in Sacramento as cooks, as dishwashers, as housekeepers. They're struggling to survive.
They also say taxpayers shouldn't be subsidizing private developers during a city budget crisis. Supporters say the project will drive jobs, housing, and growth.
The argument that we need more community benefits in exchange for this public investment, the project is the benefit. We will get the housing, the jobs, and all of the economic activity and regional pride that comes from having a soccer stadium.
After years of delays and debates, backers say today's vote moves Sacramento one step closer to its goal.
That was Luke Clary reporting. And meantime, Sassoon City Council voting to move forward with a reimbursement agreement with California Forever. This is a major step toward possible annexation of more than 22,000 acres of unincorporated land. The agreement allows the city to start formal talks with the controversial developer, outlining how costs for consultants and staff time will be covered as they study the project's impact. Supporters argue the development could boost revenue, but critics say it could bypass voters and threaten Solano County's future. And last night's decision doesn't finalize annexation, but it does move negotiations forward on one of California's most watched land use proposals. Weather now. So Rob, it looks like it's going to be a really nice, clear day.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. I love this time of year because I can tell you already, and you already know this, in July, August, September, it's going to be hot, right?
Yeah.
That's just how it's going to be. It's not going to rain. Every once in a while, we got weird things like decaying tropical systems, but this time we can have sort of two kinds of days all within 24 hours. For example, we're in the 40s in some places up high. We still have some green grass left over from after the snow melt. You get the vegetation going, it looks pretty good. There's still some snow off in the distance, so it's really nice in the mountains. The only thing you have to worry about is mountain showers and thunderstorms, right? And that's been a very busy part of of California, and also during the late afternoon, it can really tie you up if you're doing anything. As more and more people are having kids out of school, planning vacations, doing things in the mountains, that's just one extra wrinkle that if you're not from the area, you just don't know how to navigate that. The good news is that you don't really have to worry about it over the next several days. We'll keep an eye on it just in case. But this is going to be a very enjoyable forecast for everybody, as this weekend, for most everybody, it's mild back to widespread 80s, cool mornings, all good stuff going forward here until next week. Next week, we're going to get hot. 54 degrees in Sacramento. We've got 60 in Modesto, 61 Auburn, 46 for Truckee. So a nice array of temperatures. But what's interesting about today and what makes it different is that over the last couple of mornings, we start to see these winds, especially this time, sort of back off a little bit, right? Then you start to see the heat of the day build. Late in the day, they come rushing back. They're still sustaining themselves, so we've got some element of onshore wind happening right now. Now, yesterday, we did see a couple of cells of thunderstorms near Lassen, near Shasta, moving off to the north and east. So a very tiny portion of the state did see some thunderstorm activity, but for the most part, we have dried out. We're looking at widespread temperatures in the 80s. Once you get north of Sacramento, I'm talking far north, then we really start to see very little influence from that onshore wind. You're just sort of tucked too far away. either too far inland away from the coast, or the difference between the coastal range and the valley floor here is just too much, so there isn't a lot of spilling over of the ocean cooled winds. At any rate, it's going to be a nice day for many people, and we're looking at this evening again that's going to throw people for a loop, because just like yesterday, it's warm, it's sunny, it's dry, we're on that familiar path, but it just wasn't as hot in the afternoon. And then the winds come in and you very quickly can cool down by 14, 15 degrees within 2 hours right around sunset, from before to after sunset. And what's interesting is that for 9 o'clock at night, there's still a lot of people just wrapping things up. I know that's late, but mentally our body clock just starts to only wind down when it gets dark. So you're doing things when it's 67 degrees and kind of windy. And then by 11, when you're really done, it's 60 degrees and still kind of windy. So it's just a very interesting change in the weather that happens here locally for a short period of time around now. And then as we move into the extended forecast, you're going to see those temperatures shoot on up, and going into next week, yep, it's going to get hot again as we go back into hot weather pattern. But the first day of summer officially is Thursday, and that's when we're going to be approaching 100 degrees. Let's go ahead and get a live look at weather with Trista Drake from the CHP. So Trista, this time in the morning, a lot more cars on the road. I did see something pop up on 99 that I'm sure you got information on, so let us know what's going on.
Hi, good morning. We do have a crash there northbound 99 at 47th. It is blocking the number 1 and number 2 lanes there. Emergency crews are on scene. We're trying to get those vehicles moved out of the roadway, but again, causing a lot of delays as you make your way north onto 99 up to that 50 connector. So be prepared for that slowdown. Also working on clearing an earlier crash eastbound 80 near the scales. Those vehicles are off to the right shoulder. They're in the final cleanup stages there, so just be aware they're on the shoulder. No other major incidents though here in Sacramento. Our commute has actually been looking really good. It's pretty light out there still in Sacramento, so again, looking good. Tracy Triangle has been in the red all morning from that commute from Tracy into Dublin, looking at about 50 minutes or so right now. Modesto and Stockton, though, are both clear, everything in the green. Rob, back to you.
All right, thank you so much for that update.
All right, thank you, Officer Drake and Rob. And now we go to this. Federal authorities have revealed details of a disturbing terrorism plot they say targeted Jewish Americans. The arrest is the latest in a disturbing rise in anti-Semitism, and this is prompting a bipartisan outcry in Washington. ABC's Andrew Dimbert has the details.
This morning, authorities revealing a foiled terror plot targeting Jewish people in New York, unsealing charges against a 20-year-old Pakistani national. They say Muhammad Khan plotted a coordinated attack on a Jewish center in Brooklyn using AR-15-style rifles. The FBI says Khan told undercover officers, even if we don't attack an event, we could rack up easily a lot of Jews, adding, we are going to NYC to slaughter them. Authorities claim Khan, who was arrested in Canada last year, was working in the name of ISIS. The case coming as the country sees a spike in anti-Semitic attacks. 15 people were injured in Boulder, Colorado this month when a man armed with a flamethrower and Molotov cocktails firebombed a Jewish demonstration. And in Washington last night, lawmakers from both sides of the political aisle came together to mourn the 2 Israeli embassy workers shot and killed outside the Jewish Museum last month. The 2 were about to be engaged.
We must come together in good faith as Democrats and Republicans, standing shoulder to shoulder to defeat anti-Semitism whenever and wherever it may be found, until we bury it in the ground, never to rise again.
Suspects in both the D.C. and Boulder attacks allegedly yelled, "Free Palestine."
We see 2 cold-blooded monsters separated by 2,000 miles, but united in their sick hatred of the Jewish people.
Anti-Semitic attacks in the U.S. have soared by more than 250% since the war in Gaza began, after steadily climbing over the last decade. Palestinian and Muslim communities have also seen a rise in hate crimes since the start of the war in Gaza. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
Authorities in Washington are bracing right now for possible protests during this weekend's military parade, also being called No King's Day. Protests are being planned nationwide. This morning, tanks and armored vehicles now line some streets in the nation's capital. Sources say mounted rocket launchers will be on display, along with 6,000 soldiers and a 50-aircraft flyover. Officials say the parade is to mark the Army's 250th birthday. Saturday is also President Trump's 79th birthday. President Trump has said any protesters who come out on No King's Day will be met with very big force. Sources say Saturday's parade could cost taxpayers $45 million. Protests are expected across the country, including here in Sacramento. And we are hearing from immigration attorneys. They say they're seeing ICE detaining people who are trying to maneuver through the legal process of becoming a U.S. citizen. They say people are being taken away from their families and treated like criminals, even though many of them don't have criminal convictions or arrests. ABC 10's Roxana Elias explains what they can do to protect themselves.
I have been practicing for about 10 years now, and I've never seen something like this.
Immigration attorneys say it's alarming to see U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detain people who are otherwise trying to follow the law. And on the court side of things, they're seeing a lot of issues with the denial of due process.
The law says that they're afforded the protections of our Constitution, and when they are stripped of constitutional rights of due process, it should be alarming to everybody, regardless of what your political leanings are.
Thomas Baker is an immigration attorney with Capital Gateway Immigration. He says the most recent egregious thing they're seeing is the government making motions to dismiss people's deportation cases.
And then when that happens, the person leaves the courtroom, and then Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, is there, and they take them into custody, and then they do what's called an expedited removal, which is basically deporting them without a hearing.
Both Baker and Julian Sanchez Mora with Immigrant Crime and Justice say they have had clients taken into custody, although they were doing the right thing. Sanchez Mora says despite the belief that all immigrants entered the U.S. illegally, the truth is most entered legally under a work visa or seeking asylum. Attorneys say one of the biggest issues is people not having representation.
Show up with an attorney. If you are represented, then your attorney can oppose any motion from the government to try to dismiss your case.
An attorney can also motion for their client to show up to their hearings virtually, which is a new strategy being used. And although the most recent detentions are deterring people from showing up to court, attorneys strongly advise against it.
Let someone know that you will be appearing for your court hearing. Have a plan. Have someone that knows where you are. Have someone or make arrangements for childcare if you have children.
In Sacramento, Roxana Elias, ABC 10.
And Baker also says if someone comes face to face with ICE agents, it's not smart to run away because then they could face criminal charges. He says it's better to be respectful to agents because they do hold the power to release someone without bond. And now to the fight to keep invasive golden mussels out of Northern California waterways. And there's a new weapon they're using. Whiskeytown National Recreation Area posted these photos saying they've partnered with the State Department of Fish and Wildlife to bring in canine officers Allie and Watson. The dogs inspect boats before they go out onto the lake to make sure no mussels make it out on the water. Officials say to make sure your vessel is always clean, drained, and fully dry before every lunch. An Elk Grove State of the City address happened yesterday, celebrating 25 years since incorporation. Yesterday, Mayor Bobby Singh Allen pointed out the city's strength, diversity, and dreams of its residents. She talked about the city's retail and restaurants, pointing out the addition of Macy's, REI, and Whole Foods. She also brought up the disappointment in losing the new zoo, but says she's excited about more opportunities.
When one door closes, another door opens. And we are ready to walk through that next door with optimism and enthusiasm. Elk Grove is ready for bold moves. We have the courage to dream big, act fast, and keep our community at the heart of every decision.
And the city of Elk Grove has grown a lot in the past 25 years. Back in 2001, the population was at nearly 77,000, but at last count in 2017, it was 171,000, even over that number. And coming up right here on ABC 10 Morning News, NBA Finals Game 3 airs tonight on ABC 10. The latest matchup coming up after the break. Mark?
I know it's a sore subject with some when I say animated series turn live action. Some people groan. Stop groaning. This is amazing. How to Train Your Dragon is epic and amazing on every single level. You can see it tomorrow on the biggest screen possible. I'll talk about that with star of both, Gerard Butler, next.
Solar incentives under threat.
What's going on here? I don't understand. Why would you oppose solar?
As customers feel left behind.
It can add up to tens of thousands of dollars.
Questioning what's next.
I will have to pay it off or lower the price of the house.
Could a bill in the state capitol
It would retroactively change the contract.
be a final blow?
What is your response to your critics who say you've only written this bill because of the influence from your background with big energy and their contributions to your political career?
Don't miss this special report on AB 942, Thursday on To the Point with Alex Bell at 6:30, only on ABC 10.
All right, well, it is time for us to take a look right now. This weekend, a beloved family film is returning to theaters 15 years after the original movie. So ABC 10's Marcus Allen is here to tell us more. Hey, Mark.
Hey, yeah, Friday on Take a Look, it's a half hour dedicated to all things How to Train Your Dragon because the live action movie is hitting theaters. Tomorrow you can see it on IMAX. I almost cry when I talk about it because this is so beloved by my family. Hard to believe it's been 15 years. Now, if your family loves this too and you're worried that the adaptation is going to ruin it, fear not. It is so good, so faithful. Let me talk for a minute about what the original means as we play the original so I can catch up to speed, remind you of what we went through 15 years ago with it when it first fell into our hearts. My son interviewed Jay Baruchel, the original voice of Hiccup, for the movie. And when he sat down to talk to him, Jay Baruchel kept working the word for flatulence into every sentence. He said, my son became unglued. He had never heard an adult say that word because we technically didn't use it back in the day. And here's his reaction.
What would you train it to do?
What would I train it to do? I think you know the answer. What would you train it to do?
Sing.
Sing? See, this is, you're making me look bad.
I'm going to put it on my Instagram. It gets funnier after that. We'll have a debate about that in a moment. Back to the movie. The movie is spectacular. Tomorrow on the IMAX screen, it's in 3D. That's the way I saw it. It becomes an event in that way. But regardless, the heart of this movie is its core. And I talked to the original star, who also is the father in this movie, Gerard Butler, about it. Look. Good to see you again. Caffeinate, hydrate, whatever you need. Let's go.
Both, all at the same time. Same time.
Congratulations on this. It is every bit as epic and as amazing as we would hope it would. For you, it's full circle. How does that feel?
It feels good because reactions like this, you know, I love this franchise, and when I knew I had the opportunity to actually step into his boots, you know, and wear that armor, I went in with full gusto. You know, I brought everything, and I felt like I could bring all my experience and warriors I've played, but not just that, because I think what is actually unforgettable about Stoic is quite the opposite. Yeah, you remember those big moments.
Yeah.
With this movie, we had a chance to see those contradictions, that grief, those moments with his son, that, you know, they are so touching. The quietness, you know, the softness behind the roar.
Yeah, as a parent, like, you know, people of all ages are going to find time to laugh in this and cry, but as a parent, my God, there are moments in this movie where your heart sinks and you feel it.
Absolutely. I think you're feeling it from all the characters. Like, it's a long time since I've seen a movie. I just watched it again the other night, and you go, every character is experiencing, so there's so much story in every moment. You know, every moment is endowed with some meaning or humor or touching or lesson or, you know, a character evolving. And it's just, it's a joy because it's also with the backdrop of this incredible world that we've stepped into, and all the excitement of all the action, which in itself is also feels a lot more visceral and real and immediate because it's live action. You know, it's the real thing.
It is the real thing, so moving. That is the voice of the dad in the original and the live-action dad, Gerard Butler. So I recommend seeing this movie on the biggest screen possible. You can see it that way tomorrow. It opens Friday everywhere. How to Train Your Dragon live action. Don't listen to me. The internet is blowing up for love of this movie. Friday, half-hour take a look at 9:30.
All right,
now,
exciting.
Can I ask you again, in your household, that interview with my son where he says the word for flatulence, fart, I believe it is.
Yes.
We didn't say that a lot in our home, so he rolled on the floor about it. Did you use that word in your home, Jordan?
Yeah, we did, but you asked me earlier if there was like another word we used, and fluff came to mind, so.
It makes it sound so delightful, because that's also a candy, right?
Right, or like a marshmallow fluff.
By the way, I taught my kids, you know, later on when you grow up, use sentence enhancers, as they're called on SpongeBob, but sparingly and in the right company.
Yeah, that's good advice. All right, thank you, Marcus Allen, and more on this. Take a look on Friday. Okay, let's talk about sports now. So the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers are preparing for a crucial Game 3 tonight. So right now, the series is tied up. And in situations where both teams are tied at this point in the series, the team who wins Game 3 usually ends up going on to win the series 80% of the time. Kind of an interesting stat there. Well, because of the NBA Finals that we mentioned, our programming will look a little bit different tonight on ABC10. We'll have a special edition of ABC10 News at 4:30 with finals coverage starting at 5. And then once that game wraps up around 8, we'll be back with news. Then more news will be on at 10:30 tonight, followed by late news tonight at 11. And coming up, we will have some top stories that we're following this morning and another look at your weather and traffic. Stick with us. We'll be right back. This is an ABC 10 Morning News Update. I'm Jordan Tolbert. Sacramento city leaders approved a budget plan that will avoid layoffs across city departments. The $1.67 billion plan was approved in a 7-2 vote. Opponents saying it doesn't do enough to balance the deficit, and the plan will take effect on July 1st. And Sacramento city leaders also approving a financial plan that pushes the rail yards project forward. The project aims to build a new Sac Republic FC soccer stadium in North Sacramento. Supporters of the project hope to see it built by 2027. And Sassoon City a step closer toward a deal with the controversial California Forever Group. City Council voted to move forward in talks with the developer, which is trying to annex part of the city's land. And let's go ahead and get over to Rob with a look at your weather forecast for today. And it looks like it's going to be a good one.
I really like today. I got to tell you, today's a good one because we've got everything going for us that most people really like. First of all, we've got our early morning cool temperatures. Maybe it's a walk with the dog. Maybe it's sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee. Maybe it's watching the show. And guess what? We've got really nice conditions once you get outside because it doesn't really hit the 80s until well into this afternoon, and then that's it. We only see a handful of 90s out there, so this is very manageable heat. I would call this a warm afternoon, and then very quickly, if that's not your thing, then you're gonna get some nice cooling weather, and that's gonna be a nice, robust delta breeze, onshore wind, because it spreads far beyond the delta and up high as well. And we're really in good shape to set up this pattern. Just to show you how dramatic the cooling is, just before sunset, 80s, just after sunset, 60s, and it's windy, so that certainly will affect you. We've got these kinds of conditions all the way through Father's Day weekend. Then as you can see, next week, first day of summer's Thursday, and we're looking at temperatures close to 100 degrees. By the way, Wednesday should be the hottest on Juneteenth at 100 degrees. Okay, in and around Sacramento, we're for the most part doing okay, except for this. I've got some good news, by the way. This was a crash with a big backup, as you can see there near 47th and 99. They've cleared the cars and the lanes are open, but there's always the residual backup. Also, we've got this on 80 coming into town.